We are now
Okay,
live.
thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Chicago's Town Hall on Eviction Protection. My name is Cindy Soto, and I'm Managing Deputy Commissioner at the Chicago Department of Housing, and I'll be your moderator for the evening. I'd like to ID myself for people with visual disabilities. I am a Latina woman with long black hair and brown highlights. I have dark skin and brown eyes. I'm wearing a dress with colors maroon, pink, and blue, and a black sweater, along with green earrings. This evening, we have interpreters in Spanish, Polish, and Mandarin. You just need to go to our Zoom event link, which is on the screen, and it'll be also posted in the chat. Please note, if you're looking for the Polish interpreter, the option is in Russian on Zoom, because they did not have a Polish option for us, unfortunately, so we apologize for that. And now it is my pleasure that I welcome the Commissioner of the Department of Housing, Commissioner Marisa Novara. Commissioner.
Thank you, Cindy. Good evening. My name is Marisa Novara. I'm Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Housing. I will also ID myself. I'm a white woman with curly brown hair. I'm wearing a teal sweater. The COVID-19 crisis has exacerbated the existing housing crisis in Chicago. Many Chicagoans have lost jobs or income and have been unable to pay their rent in full or in part. The pandemic has created severe housing stress and instability for both tenants and landlords who are receiving substantially less income to cover necessary maintenance. The Department of Housing and the city have responded with unprecedented measures to address the need, including more than $100 million in 3 rounds of rental assistance to date. In addition, last year, City Council passed the COVID-19 Eviction Protection Ordinance, providing additional eviction protection to tenants who inform their landlords in writing of their inability to pay their rent. And this year, the city created the Housing Stability Community Resource Table. That is the organizers of this event, so we thank them in particular. And we organized that table to bring together community-based organizations, legal advocates, and policymakers who guide ongoing work to keep Chicagoans securely housed. Although the eviction moratorium ended in October, our most important message today is that if you are one of the many Chicagoans worried about staying in your home, you have help available. You will learn today about that help, including free legal support and financial assistance. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm going to turn it over now to Sheila Regan, Chief Operating Officer at Aclivis, a community health organization focusing on the health and well-being of individuals on the south and southwest sides of the city. Sheila?
Teraz Sheila będzie przemawiać.
Hi, can you guys see me? Good evening, everyone. Okay, great. So I can't see myself. Oh, there, I can see myself now. Technology challenges. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sheila Regan, and just to identify myself, I am a white woman with blue eyes and a long brown ponytail wearing a gray dress. I am with Aclivis, a community health organization working to end health inequity in Chicago. The Housing Stability Community Response Team is made up of community leaders from 8 community areas, as well as stakeholders who work on legal aid, advocacy, data, and other government roles. When we meet, leaders from community organizations like Aclivis share what we're seeing on the ground and hearing in our communities to help inform how the city directs resources and shapes program. Our big goal is to help create community-based solutions to evictions and housing instability. Now that the Illinois eviction moratorium is lifted, we know that many people are worried about eviction and are also experiencing housing instability. To anyone affected by this change, we want you to know that you're not alone and there is help available. We organized this event so that Chicagoans know how to access these resources and so that you may ask any questions that you might have. Thanks much for joining us tonight. And I will pass it back to Cindy.
Thank you, Sheila, and thank you, Commissioner Marisa Novara. I want to share with you what this evening will be like. If we can go to the next slide, please. So we just went through a quick welcome. We're gonna go through a quick exercise of what is an eviction, fact or fiction, a bit of a game that we like to play with you all to help keep things exciting as much as possible. And then we're gonna do an overview of resources. We're gonna do a walkthrough of the eviction process, and then we're gonna answer your questions. You can also feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We'll be reviewing them throughout this event. And if we can get to those questions in the chat, we'll post them online, and we'll also share them when we post everything on our website later when we adjourn later today. We will also be adding our presentation on our website when we adjourn. The presentation will be available in Spanish, Polish, and Mandarin. If you have any questions after this event, you can send your questions to communityengagement@cityofchicago.org. We will also have a few different opportunities throughout this year to continue to engage with us through our community partners. And we'll be sharing events that our community partners have around eviction. A few of them have already taken place. The next slide, please. So today's goals are really some key areas here, but ultimately we want to make sure that everybody feels that they're supported, that they have resources, that resources are accessible to you. And if you don't feel that way after today's event, please feel free to follow up with us. We'd like to hear how we can make these opportunities more accessible to each of the residents here in Chicago. So our goals are to make sure that you know where you can go to get help with housing and eviction issues, that you have additional clarity about the eviction process so you can help yourself or someone else that you know, and that you can receive answers to your questions. The next slide, please. Throughout the presentation, I'll be calling on the speakers, and speakers, if you can just introduce yourself if you're speaking for the first time. I just want to remind folks, if you're just joining us, you can join us via Zoom. If you need interpretation in Spanish, Polish, or Mandarin, there'll be an option when you join on Zoom that you can go to that room where the interpreter will be at. If we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is the moment in which we want to make sure that we engage with you, and we want to keep you engaged and tune into what we're going to share. So if you can join us in playing what we call fact or fiction. I'm going to read the statement and I'll wait a few seconds, and then I'll call on members on the panel to answer whether it is a fact or a fiction. The first statement is, a renter can be evicted for not paying rent right now. A renter can be evicted for not paying rent right now. Fact or fiction? Okay, I'm seeing a few fictions. I see a couple of facts. John, why don't you let us know, is this a fact or a fiction?
Well, my name is John Bartlett, and to introduce myself and ID myself, I'm white, I'm older, losing my hair on top. I have a yellow shirt and kind of a brownish tie, and I'm the director of the Metropolitan Tenants Organization. And it is a fact that on October 3rd, the eviction moratorium ended, which means that a landlord can give any tenant a 5-day notice to pay or vacate. And if you do nothing, the landlord can take you to court to evict you. So I also want to add, it's also a fact that landlords can evict you during the winter, regardless of whether you have young children, you're disabled, or you're a senior. In fact, the reasons a landlord can evict you are: 1, for non-payment; 2, if you're violating any of the lease agreements; and 3, they can just terminate at the end of a lease by giving you a 30-day notice if you've lived there less than 30 days, by giving you a 60-day notice if you've been there for 6 months to 3 years, or they can give you a 120-day notice if you live there more than 3 years.
Thank you, John. And we'll also be dropping in the link, a couple of one-pagers where you can learn more about your rights. At the Department of Housing, it's essential for us to ensure that each resident understands their rights and that information is accessible to them in their language. So if you go to our website, you'll find that we have various different versions of the one-pagers for illegal lockouts, for the COVID eviction protection, and the fair notice. So you'll be seeing these links throughout today's presentation. The next slide, please. Okay, audience. The next statement is, my landlord can force me to leave my home without filing an eviction. Fact or fiction? I'm going to read this statement one more time. My landlord can force me to leave my home without filing an eviction. Fact or fiction? Thank you so much for participating, everyone. Somebody said big fat fiction. Okay, John, why don't you let us know, is this a fact or a fiction?
And everybody's been doing great because this is a fiction that only a judge through a court order can force you to leave your apartment. And in fact, only a sheriff is the only one that can actually then remove you from your apartment. So that means your landlord can't, the manager can, and even the police can't. And this would also include even shutting off your utilities. These are all illegal. And I guess this is important to know that you have help here. So don't just leave if you've been threatened like this. Get help. You can call the police for one, that they can come out and they can actually even arrest the landlord if they're threatening or actually locked you out. So that there are other resources available like free attorneys, free mediators, and all this. So get help if this is happening to you.
Thank you, John. The next slide, please. The next statement is, I should go to court if I receive an eviction summons. Fact or fiction? I'll read it again. I should go to court if I receive an eviction summons. Fact or fiction? Okay. I think the facts have it. Michelle, I'll hand this one over to you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Gilbert, and I'm Legal and Policy Director for Lawyers Committee for Better Housing. I'm a white woman with white hair that really needs a haircut, so it's all just pulled back in a hair clip right now. This is a fact. You should go to court if you receive an eviction summons. If you've ever been in eviction court before, you probably think of it as a pretty scary place where tenants are shut down and not really given much of an opportunity to talk. But we're here to tell you that there have been some changes. There are resources available when people go to eviction courts. And you're going to hear more about that throughout this presentation. It's also important to know that even if you don't go to court, the judge can enter a default judgment against you. And the landlord could take that judgment to the sheriff and you could be evicted. So it's much better to know what is going on, even when it seems scary.
Thank you, Michelle. It's very important. Okay, we're not done. We have a couple more slides to go on fact and fiction. So the next statement is, once I receive an eviction notice as a tenant, there is no help available to me. Fact or fiction? Okay. I'm going to read it one more time. Once I receive an eviction notice as a tenant, there is no help available to me. Thank you so much, audience, for participating. There are a lot of responses coming through, and I think the answer, or the majority of you have answered it as fiction. John, what do you think? Is this fact or fiction?
It is definitely fiction, that there are quite a few resources out there to help tenants respond to evictions. And even I would say possibly stay in your units that you wouldn't have to move. Though these are not infinite. And I always like to get people thinking that the longer you wait to try to get to these resources, the harder it is going to be for people to help you. Because I can tell you from experience that we get a lot of people calling our hotline that's saying, I have court the next day. And this makes it really hard to help. So, but even if you do wait, I still want you to know that don't give up, that there are still resources out there to help you, that can help you access both attorneys, they can help you access emergency rental assistance, and possibly free mediation services. And that's what we're going to be going over next, are how to access the resources that are available to you if you do get an eviction notice.
Thank you, John. Okay, the last one is, as a landlord, there is no help available to me. Is this a fact or a fiction? As a landlord, there is no help available to me. And to help answer this slide, I am going to call on my colleague, Daniel Hertz.
Thank you, Cindy.
Daniel. Yep. you do.
Thank you. And I'll introduce myself. My name is Daniel Hertz. I'm Director of Policy at the Department of Housing. I'm a white man with curly hair and a beard, a collared shirt. And the answer here is definitely fiction. As a landlord, many of the same resources that are available for tenants can also help you. And we know that a lot of landlords, especially smaller property owners, maybe you live in a 2 or 3 flat and rent out the other units, are also in a position of a lot of hardship and are really need help if their tenants have been affected and unable to pay rent. So the resources that you'll hear about later today, including rental assistance, mediation services in court, and even help before you get to court, are also available for you as a property owner if you need it. So more details to come on that later in the presentation.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone. So just a quick recap. The eviction moratorium ended October 3rd of this year. We want you to walk away knowing that you don't have to self-evict. Your landlord can't force you to leave your home without filing an eviction. And help is available to tenants and landlords. And so we'll move on to the next portion of our presentation where we'll get into a few more resources available to you. The next slide, please. We're going to be covering resources during this portion of today's event. And I, again, just want to remind people, if you're just joining us, you can go onto our Zoom account and we have interpreters in Spanish, Polish, and Mandarin. For Polish translation, you'll have to select the option that says Russian. The next slide, please. And for this portion of the presentation, I'm going to ask Daniel to join us again. And if you have your video on, let us know, and then we can spotlight you.
Great. Thank you so much. So this is Daniel Hertz again from the Department of Housing. So what rental assistance programs are available for you right now? Number one, at this very moment, you can apply to All Chicago's COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which is available to Chicago renters who've been financially impacted by the pandemic. And you can access that application by going to rentrelief.com/allchicago. Get more information about that, as well as apply directly. And in addition, Gabby Nelson from the Department of Housing has just shared that link in the chat. So you can click directly on that link in the chat here. But second of all, the City of Chicago Department of Housing has put together the website Chicago.gov/renthelp, which has up-to-date information about where to apply for assistance if you are a Chicago tenant or a landlord. We know there's multiple programs with different application dates, but if you go to Chicago.gov/rent help, you'll see information about programs that are open at that time. And I should also mention that in an upcoming section, we will discuss more about legal aid and mediation resources as well. In addition to the All Chicago program that's open right now, there will be two major rental assistance programs opening very soon in the coming weeks. So the City Department of Housing will launch our next round of applications for rental assistance on December 6th, Monday, December 6th. We are, even though we are opening up the program for new applications, you should know that if you have applied previously this year and are not one of the people who's already been approved, we are continuing to process and approve rental assistance applications from previously submitted this year. Again, you can go to Chicago.gov/rent help for more information about both the upcoming round soon, as well as to check the status of a submitted application and find out how to do that. In addition to the city application, the state of Illinois and the Illinois Housing Development Authority will also launch a new round of applications on December 6th that will be open to City of Chicago residents. Like the city program, applicants will be eligible for up to 15 months of assistance. And you can learn more about eligibility requirements for the state program at illinoishousinghelp.org. And similar to the city program, if you are a tenant or a landlord and have already applied for assistance, you can check the status of your application at ilrpp.ihda.org/status.
Thank you, Daniel. And we're going to turn it over to Elisa.
Good evening, everyone. This is Elisa Rodriguez. I'm the Managing Deputy Commissioner at the Department of Family and Support Services. We wanted to also make sure that for those folks that are at risk of homelessness, that you call 311 to seek short-term shelter. We will be able to connect you with services and connect you to a shelter and also provide transportation. If you are at risk of homelessness, we ask that you call the Prevention Call Center by dialing 311 or 312-744-5000. When the call center answers, ask for short-term help. The call center staff will assess your eligibility for financial assistance, which includes some of the ones that Daniel has talked about, as well as other community resources, and refer you to a partner agency that can help you with your rental situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa. And I don't think we were able to spotlight you. We apologize for that, but if you're going to speak again, we'll give it another shot. Daniel, I think the next slide is you.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. We also want to highlight, we know that it's really important for us to share the direct housing resources, housing financial assistance, short-term shelter options that exist. But we also know that being in a situation where your housing is unstable is a extremely distressing and upsetting position to be in, and one that many, many Chicagoans are in. So in addition to the direct housing resources, there are also mental health resources that are available to you if you need help with that part of the challenge of housing stability. If you're experiencing anxiety or depression, you can speak with someone and find other mental health resources by visiting ChicagoConnects.com. Again, that's ChicagoConnects.com. In addition, there's more information about mental health services provided by the Chicago Department of Public Health at Chicago.gov/CDPH. We do encourage you to take advantage of these resources.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Daniel, Elisa, everyone that has shared. information up until this point. There's a lot more left to this event, so stick with us. We do want you to walk away with, from this portion of the presentation, that financial help is still available. Mental health resources are also available. And for up-to-date information, you can visit us at Chicago.gov/eviction or Chicago.gov/rent help. You're not alone. We are trying our best to ensure that your needs are being met. And again, if you don't think our resources are accessible, or if you're having a hard time conveying this information to somebody else that speaks a different language, please make sure to get a hold of us. We want to ensure that our resources are available for all of the residents across Chicago that are facing a hard time. The next slide, please. Just as a reminder, if you're joining us, you can go on Zoom and you can select a different room if you want Spanish, Polish, or Mandarin, so that you can hear the presentation in your language. The Zoom link is noted here, and we'll drop it in the chat one more time so you can just click on it. And now we're going to proceed to understanding the eviction process. We have a lot of great speakers that are just going to walk us through what you can expect from an eviction. So what we're going to cover is where to get help if you're behind on your rent but haven't received an eviction summons, what to do if you've received an eviction notice or summons, how to prepare for eviction court, what happens in eviction court, and how to get connected to legal aid, mediation, and other resources throughout the process. Next slide, please.
Hello, Michelle Gilbert again. If you have, I'm sorry.
No, I just said thank you.
If you have questions, there are 2 resources available. Our office sponsors a chatbot, Rentervention, and we will make sure to put the phone number and the link in the chat. The great thing about the chatbot is it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can ask questions about eviction, other landlord-tenant law, or sealing eviction files. A new resource is the Cook County Legal Aid for Housing and Debt Hotline. That's open during your normal business hours, and you can call, speak to a legal representative. All of these services are free, confidential. Cook County Legal Aid is available to both landlords and tenants, and available to homeowners with questions about mortgages or tax sales. Thank you. So I'm going to go quickly over this point because as my friend John has as well. Every eviction needs to start with a notice. A landlord can give a notice to a tenant really for 3 different reasons. One is not paying rent. One is for a lease violation other than paying rent, such as having a pet or a guest who has overstayed. And then a landlord can decide not to renew a written lease, or if you don't have a written lease, can just let you know that the landlord wants you to move. Next slide. The landlord must follow each of the 5 steps that we're going to discuss. Again, the first step is the termination notice for people who are behind in rent. If the landlord doesn't follow each of these 5 steps, then it is an illegal eviction. The good thing about the termination period is if it's a 5-day or 10-day, is that the tenant has the ability to remedy or cure or fix the problem. So the tenant could pay the amount demanded in the termination notice or find some other place for their pet to live. If they have cured the problem, they give notice to the landlord, and then the eviction can't go forward. And next slide. Again, there are 5 days for non-payment, 10 days for other lease violation. And there's an important change that took place in Chicago law last July, that the notice period has changed. Historically, it was if the landlord was not going to renew your lease, it was just a 30-day notice. But now, if you've lived in the unit for less than 6 months, the notice period is 30 days. But if you've lived there between 6 months to 3 years, then the notice period is 60 days. And if you've lived there for more than 3 years, the notice period is 120 days. Now, this coincidentally passed while the COVID pandemic was going on, but it's not COVID specific, it's permanent law. And so these changes will remain in effect.
Thank you, Michelle. Daniel, the next slide is for you.
Yeah, thanks, Cindy. In addition to the provisions that Michelle just talked about, there's also still some protections for a little bit longer under the COVID-19 Eviction Protection Ordinance, which was passed by City Council last year and then revised again earlier this summer. Even though the eviction moratorium expired on October 3rd, the COVID Eviction Protection Ordinance is continuing to be in effect until December 2nd of this year. The COVID Eviction Protection Ordinance says that tenants who give landlords written notice of their inability to pay rent because of lost income due to the COVID-19 pandemic can have some additional protections, including an additional 7-day cooling off period before the landlord can file, a requirement that the landlord reach out and attempt to reach a non-eviction resolution to the situation, including a payment plan or mediation. And finally, a requirement that the landlord register with the city or apply for rental assistance in order to cure the eviction. And again, this ordinance is still in effect until December 2nd. So if you are a tenant who's in a position where you have not been able to pay rent because of lost income due to COVID-19, you can still give your landlord a written notice, a written COVID-19 notice. It can be as a letter, it can be an email, it can even be a text message. Any written communication with your landlord can trigger protections under this ordinance.
Thank you, Daniel. Michelle?
Again, only the sheriff can remove you from the property if you, and then only after the landlord has completed all of these steps and received an eviction order from court. If you're subject to an illegal lockout, call 311. You can find out more about your rights against lockout by calling the city's hotline, 312-742-7368, or calling Metropolitan Tenants Organization, 773-292-4988.
Thank you, Michelle. And just as a reminder, we'll be sharing the slide deck after this meeting adjourns, or this event, I should say. So in case you missed those numbers, they'll be on our website once we conclude this evening. For this slide, I'm going to call on Karina.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Karina Segalini. I am a court administrator with the Circuit Court of Cook County, and to identify myself, I am a white woman with blue eyes and light brown hair and a bob haircut. I'm wearing a gray turtleneck and a necklace. This part of my presentation is to explain a little bit more about what you might expect from the court process if you are facing eviction. The first thing to remember, as my colleagues have said, you are not alone. And if you have not reached out for help with your rental situation, please know resources are available at the court to help you. So what should you know about receiving an eviction summons? A landlord is required to do two things to start the court process. First, the landlord must file a complaint for eviction with the court. A complaint is a document that describes why the landlord wants to evict a tenant and how much rent is owed to the landlord. Second, a formal notice must be given to the tenant. This formal notice is what we call the summons. A summons has case information on it, such as the case number, the case name, and information about the court date and time of your court appearance. A tenant might learn about the court proceeding for evictions in two ways. Each of these ways constitutes service. Service means that a court can properly proceed against a tenant with eviction. The first way a tenant might learn about a court proceeding is if a sheriff hands you court paperwork, including the summons and a copy of the eviction complaint. If service happens in this manner, a landlord can seek both possession of the property and a judgment for the money that the landlord is owed for those missing rent payments. The second way a tenant can learn about an eviction case is if the eviction notice and summons is posted at the property. If posting is the only way of notifying the tenants, the landlord can only seek possession of the property. Both forms of service can lead to an eviction. Once an eviction case is initiated with the court, state law requires that most eviction cases be sealed until a judgment is entered. This means two things. First, your credit is usually not impacted by the initiation of a case. And second, that it may not be as easy to find out information about your court because most court staff and clerk staff do not have access to those sealed records. At this point, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Bob Glaves, to discuss the Cook County Legal Aid for Housing and Debt.
Thank you, Karina. My name is Bob Glaves from the Chicago Bar Foundation. And for identification, I'm an average looking white guy with a lot of gray hair, and I'm wearing a blue sweater. So you've heard a lot about the resources, and it may feel a little overwhelming, and the idea of court may feel a little scary as well. All we want to get across today is it's okay. You're not alone, as you've heard, but there is these resources available, and you don't even physically have to come to court. As you're going to hear more in a minute, it's on Zoom now. The court hearings are on Zoom, so you can do them from remote places like your own home or wherever, or in the courthouse, there's some resources available to you you'll hear about too. But once you get into court on Zoom, you'll be able to meet with a case manager, and you're going to hear from one of them in a little bit here from the Center for Conflict Resolution, who's going to help connect you to all these resources you've heard about. So even if you've missed out on all of that before your court case comes up, if you go to court on Zoom, you'll be able to be connected to the case manager who can connect you to free legal help, rental assistance, mediation, and perhaps other resources as well. It's all free. It's all great lawyers, great mediators, and there are representatives of the city right there in the court to help you with rental assistance. So lots there to help you. Everybody wants to help find better resolutions here for you. You can find out more by visiting cookcountylegalaid.org or calling 855-956-5763. But again, even if you didn't have a chance to do that before court, they'll be able to connect you. So I will turn it back to Karina, and thank you.
Good evening, Karina Segolini again. Let's talk a little bit about how you can prepare for going to court for an eviction case. If you learn that a landlord has started the court proceedings, the most important thing you can do is show up to court. There are so many people facing the same financial and housing issues right now, and there are those resources available in court that Bob was talking about. So showing up to court can help you understand the process and access those important resources. There are 4 steps that I'd like to highlight here today to help you prepare for court. Step 1, call the Cook County Legal Aid for Housing and Debt. Like Bob said, the phone number is 1-855-956-5763, or you can go to the website cookcountylegalaid.org. Here you can be connected to legal aid lawyers at no cost, and they will help advise you on options and what to expect in court. They can also assist you with getting to court and attending court if you need assistance. Step 2, keep your summons and any other paperwork you have relating to the eviction. It will be important for you to have, at a minimum, your case number and case name since the files are sealed. This paperwork will also have information about your court date, how to connect to remote court Zoom hearings, and the landlord's attorney contact information. Step 3, please plan how you will attend court. Eviction court is being held remotely by Zoom, and you should plan ahead if you will connect by smartphone, tablet, computer, or if you need to call in by telephone, or if you need to go to the Daily Center in room CL16 to get help actually attending on Zoom and using one of the Zoom kiosks located in the Daily Center. If you have mobility issues and technological issues, please call the Cook County Legal Aid for Housing and Debt to be connected to resources to help assist you in attending court. Step 4, the last step that I'd like to highlight, is to arrange to be on time for your court appearance. Timeliness is very important because there are a lot of people on these calls, that there are a lot of people facing evictions, and if you miss your court case, it's likely that you won't be able to get it recalled by the judge. Your summons has the date and time of your court appearance, and you should make any arrangements you need ahead of time. If you need to ask for time off of work, plan that ahead. If you need to arrange for some childcare, try to plan that ahead as well as necessary. And finally, if you need to come down to the Daily Center to use one of the Zoom kiosks on your court date, you should plan how you're going to get down to the Daily Center well ahead of your court time to allow for any delays and to allow to get through security. Next slide, please. So once you've prepared for your court hearing, what will happen when you actually get to court? When you go to eviction court, you are on a Zoom hearing like we are today. They're all being held remotely. So the first thing you need to do is participate in your case. And in order to successfully participate in your case, you need to show up to court, be on time or be on early, and attend by Zoom. You also need to attend all court dates. Most eviction cases now, particularly with the Cook County Legal Aid for Debt program, which initiated our early resolution program, most eviction cases are having more than one court appearance. At these hearings, there will be a judge, a court clerk, attorneys, and many self-represented litigants. Also at these hearings are people providing help to anyone without an attorney. That's our early resolution program. This is part of the Cook County Legal Aid for Housing and Debt program. In order to access this help, whether you are a landlord or a tenant, you should ask the judge for your case to go to the early resolution program. You will then be immediately triaged by a case manager who works for the Center for Conflict Resolution, and that person will connect you with the right resources for your particular case. This includes program lawyers and people who can immediately help you start an application for rental assistance. Lawyers under the court program will never chat you directly in the Zoom. Only the case manager will contact you in the same Zoom as the judge. The last thing I want to highlight before turning it over to my colleague, Ray Carizzi, is that you should always ask the judge for an interpreter if you are not fluent in English or if you are hard of hearing. And from there, I will turn it over to Ray Carizzi from the Center for Conflict Resolution to describe a little bit more about the roles of the case manager and the early resolution program during an eviction call. Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. My name is Ray Carizzi. I do have my camera on. I am a white woman with short to medium wavy brown hair, and I'm wearing a green sweater and blue sparkly earrings this evening. Thank you for having me. So the staff from the Center for Conflict Resolution, you might meet them because you have a case in an eviction courtroom that gets referred to the early resolution program, in which case they're going to provide a link for you to leave the court Zoom and join the early resolution Zoom. And that's where the program case managers will complete the intake process with you and then get you connected to all the resources that everyone's been talking about this evening, the legal aid, the rental assistance partners, and mediation if it's something you're interested in. I also want to highlight that there are other ways to get connected to mediation if that's something you think would be helpful for your case. Either landlords or tenants, or both, if you know that you're on the same page about it, can contact the Center for Conflict Resolution, CCR, in order to have a mediation held in your case. So during a mediation, we schedule it for another time that's going to work for both of you. We ask you to reserve about an hour and a half, and it's a chance to sit down and see if there's an opportunity to come up with a solution that's going to work for everyone. You don't have to have a pending court case to access mediation, but you can access mediation as part of the early resolution program. but you can also self-refer outside of the court process. During the mediation, the mediator doesn't give any advice or opinion. They simply help facilitate the conversation. And if you do come up with an agreement or a plan, the mediator will draft that agreement into a document that everyone signs, everyone gets a copy of it, and the case managers will update the court. Additionally, if your case is in the early resolution program, you're able to access any or all of the offerings. So your case might go to legal aid and rental assistance and mediation, or only one or only two of them. All of those services are available to you. If you'd like more information about opening a case for mediation, there's information here on the slide. You can contact the staff at new case at ccrchicago.org or call 312-922-6464 at extension 22. All services are available in Spanish as well as English and in other languages using interpreter services that we provide. And mediations are scheduled typically within a week of the court date.
Hello, Michelle Gilbert again. Despite all of these services, some eviction orders are being entered. Once the judge enters an eviction order, the judge often has a period of time where the landlord cannot take the order to the sheriff. In court, we call that a stay, meaning that they're stopped from doing anything. It's kind of unfortunate that outside of court, stay means something else, but a stay in court means that the landlord can't take the order to the sheriff for that number of days. Again, as we've pointed out, only a sheriff deputy can come and enforce an eviction order. Even once the landlord has a court order, they can't do a self-help eviction. They must rely on the sheriff, and anything else is illegal. I know that I noticed earlier in the chat that someone mentioned the winter moratorium, and I just want to reinforce that the winter moratorium is usually in place during the time between Christmas and New Year, and then on days in which the temperature is below 15 degrees. So please don't think that eviction orders can't be executed during this period because it is winter. It's a more limited time period than that. Finally, we've talked some about sealing eviction records, meaning that the public can't see them. So all eviction records being filed now during the COVID period are automatically sealed. No one can see them just while they're pending. However, if a landlord wins the eviction trial, the landlord can ask the judge to unseal the file. It's up to the judge to decide whether to do that or not. If the file is unsealed, then it does become part of the permanent court record. But you can definitely, even if you lost an eviction case, you can ask the judge to continue to have the seal on the file, and then it's completely up to the judge whether to grant that or not.
Thank you, Michelle. Becky? Hi.
Hi, my name is Becky Levin. I'm from the Cook County Sheriff's Office. I'm a white woman with long dark hair with a lot more gray in it than I would like, and I'm wearing glasses. It's been mentioned a couple times that the Sheriff's Office can evict people who are elderly or experiencing health issues, or where there are young children in the family, but we would strongly prefer to connect people to resources instead of having to evict people experiencing these challenges. And certainly in any time, let alone in COVID, these kinds of challenges go hand in hand with the stressors we've all been experiencing on a daily basis. So again, you aren't alone. This is why we created the Sheriff's Assistance for Evictions unit that can help connect people to social service organizations. So you can feel free to call us at any point at 312-603-3337, and we will connect you to resources to address issues such as health issues, mental health issues, how to find housing or other supports for elderly individuals, for young children in the home, all the way to how to help with pets in the home when someone is facing eviction. So again, you aren't alone. Please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you to all of our speakers. We hope that you are walking away knowing that there are resources for you at the courthouse as well. You can visit rentervention.com or cookcountylegalaid.org. And that if you find yourself with an eviction summons, that you're not alone. There are resources that you can call, you can visit in person, that you can maybe seek over the internet if you have access to Wi-Fi. And there are community organizations as well in your community. The Housing Stability Community Resource Table includes a number of community organizations throughout the city of Chicago. But if you go to our website at Chicago.gov / eviction, you'll see access to also community organizations that serve on a variety of different housing issues, like foreclosure prevention, housing counseling, and a lot of other matters that we help support through our community partners. So thank you so much to all of our speakers. And we have time for questions and answers. So we made it to the end. It's about an hour. I was getting a little worried given the amount of information that we wanted to make sure that we shared with you. But we'll be answering your questions. I think Chris will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to be reading the ones that you'll be posting in the chat and then just asking my colleagues to respond to it. Or
Yes, sure.
Okay. So I'll take the first question. I don't see it. Okay, so the first question is, how can I get help if I'm having trouble paying my other bills like utilities? I think we have somebody from CETA and CUB on the line here. So if you'd like to respond to this question, how can I get help if I'm having trouble paying my other bills like utilities?
Yeah, hi, my name's Craig Antosh. I'm a deputy director at CETA. That's the Community and Economic Development Association of Cook County. To ID myself, I'm a white male with a shaved head and a short beard and a sport coat that we'll call sea green, maybe. And we specialize in connecting households with grants from the state and federal government that help them pay their utility bills. So electric, gas, heat. Our goal is to help people stay connected. And if you're trying to fight an eviction or trying to find your next place to live, connecting your utilities and proving that you can keep them connected can be a big part of clearing those hurdles. So CETA actually, we've pivoted quite a bit during the pandemic, so we can help you over the phone at our local partner sites throughout the county, even online. So please, if you're interested or you need assistance, you can contact us at www.cetaorg.net. That's CEDAORG.net, or give us a call at 1-800-571-CETA, which is 2332. And whether you're just interested in what your options are or whether you're ready to apply, we can help you either direction. So please don't hesitate to give us a call, even if it's just kind of sending out some feelers for some more information. And I think one of our partners, CUB, Joe, I see is on the line as well, so he may have some other information to contribute.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Giambardino. Just to quickly ID myself, I am a white man with, I would say, medium length black hair, brown eyes, and I am wearing a blue collared shirt. CUB is really here as kind of a font of information to connect people with the resources they may need. We do a variety of things. We do run a hotline. The number is 1-800-669-5556. You can feel free to give us a call during the weekdays, and we're happy to walk you through the rights that you have as a utility bill payer. We also have a website with a robust amount of information regarding everything from energy efficiency. Can I receive assistance paying my bills? So you can visit our website. It's citizensutilityboard.org. We also have a Spanish website, which is cabespanol.org. We're happy to provide both of those services, again, in English and in Spanish. And again, connect you to any additional information that might help guarantee that you can pay those utility bills in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you for all of this wonderful information. And I really appreciate that language access is part of all that we do. It is not lost on us. So I really appreciate that. This question, I think, will be for you, Daniel, if you want to prepare yourself. If you received rental assistance this year, can you receive it again?
Thank you, Cindy. So if you received rental assistance from the city of Chicago, we are prioritizing in this upcoming round tenants who have not yet received any assistance from the city. However, you may be able to receive assistance from other programs that are open. And again, all of those programs will be listed at Chicago.gov/rent help.
Thank you. And if you can hold on for the following question as well. How long does it take for you to get approved after applying for rental assistance?
That is a great question, to which there is not a simple answer. So at the city of Chicago, we prioritize applications based on the most vulnerable. So people who are applying with the lowest incomes are processed first, which means that if you're in that sort of early group, hopefully it may be only a matter of a couple of weeks. But we also know that in this last round, we received about 27,000 applications, and it has taken us a while to get through all of those applications, even moving as quickly as possible. We don't know how many applications we'll get in this upcoming round, and that will really determine how fast we're able to get through all of them. At this point, we're giving out about $1 million in assistance per week, and really moving as quickly as we can. If you have applied either already or if you apply in December and you get an actual eviction notice, you can contact our staff, our call center, and let them know that you have an eviction notice, and that can help expedite your application.
And Daniel, is the rental assistance available for people who are undocumented?
Yes, the city rental assistance application does not ask any questions about immigration status, documentation, social security number for tenants. So there is no eligibility requirement related to your immigration status at all.
Thank you. And Michelle, is legal aid available for people who are undocumented?
Our program, including the entire Cook County Legal Aid for Housing and Debt, does not ask questions about immigration status. So yes, we are available regardless of immigration status.
And would anybody from the county like to answer that question?
Yeah, I will just echo what Michelle said. This is Bob Glaves. The program is available to everybody regardless of status. Thanks.
Thank you. I think we are going to close the question and answers. We're just a minute away. So we just want to make sure that we walk away with some key messages. If we can have the slide up with the recap of the self-evict, don't self-evict. And we can just go over that one more time. So just as a reminder, we hope that you feel after hearing from the resources that you don't have to self-evict, that you're not alone. There are resources available and you have rights. There is also financial help available. There's legal help available, including if you're a person with mixed immigrant status or a household that has mixed immigrant status or are undocumented. You can find more information on our website at Chicago.gov/eviction and all of the websites that you heard about here today. We'll list the resources on the eviction page, and we'll also be sharing the slide deck. And with that, we conclude today's event. Thank you so much for participating in this live event. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to the Housing Stability Community Resource Table for putting this together. If you have any questions, you can also contact our Housing Stability Fellow. Her name is Crystal Godina. She's at crystal.godina, Godina, at cityofchicago.org. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Have a good night.